Askeladd is more than just a simple villain to the protagonist. He serves as the narrative glue which attaches the entire story of Vinland Saga together. Without him, Vinland Saga's themes and Thorfinn's story simply cannot work, because his role as a character is to keep all of that together by serving as a morally grey villain, a father figure, and the heart of Vinland Saga. How does that work exactly though? Let's talk about that. Firstly, who is Askeladd and what makes him a villain in the story of Vinland Saga? Askeladd is a central character within this story. He was a cunning and clever Viking captain who led a group of ruthless mercenary pirates. At first glance, he seems like a charismatic but sardonic Viking leader, motivated by profit and reputation. However, appearances can be very deceiving. He is a deeply conflicted man, quietly despising his Viking subordinates for their savagery, clinging to his mother's Welsh heritage, and schemes for the long-term survival of Wales. This is a result of his mixed heritage, which has strongly shaped his overall character. Askeladd was born from a Welsh noblewoman enslaved by a Danish Viking chieftain, growing up in poverty, resentment, and quiet calculation, always waiting for a chance to take his revenge against his cruel father, which he eventually does. Because of his trauma in childhood, he despises and rejects his Scandinavian background and fully embraces his Romono-Celtic Welsh heritage, leading him to despise Viking culture and the brutality it represents. Raised on his mother's stories of their ancestor, the legendary King Artorius, who would one day return from Askeladd to save the Welsh people from their suffering, Askeladd wistfully clings to this hope throughout his life, ultimately placing his faith in Prince Canute to fulfill this heroic role. So why exactly is Askeladd a villain in this story? Because of several morally reprehensible actions he performs within the story itself. Murdering Thorfinn's father, massacring countless villages full of innocent and defenseless people, manipulating others around him to achieve his goals, and deliberately choosing deceit and betrayal, valuing survival and success over honor or justice. Furthermore, he exposes Thorfinn as a child into years of bloodshed and hatred, resulting in Thorfinn losing his childhood innocence and becoming psychologically tormented by his past. But is Askeladd really evil? Is he really someone who lacks any humanity? Can he be compared to someone like Griffith, who betrayed all of his closest companions purely for personal ambition? Absolutely not. While Askeladd commits various ruthless and undeniable horrific acts, he does so with clear, if morally complex, motivations. His massacre of an innocent village was driven by survival. His betrayal and killing of Ragnar was intended to force Prince Canute into independence, and his execution of his own men occurred only after they betrayed him and sought his life. They reveal that Askeladd operates under a moral code, however twisted. Unlike other Vikings, he does not revel in violence for its own sake, shows restraint when killing serves no purpose, and remains fiercely loyal to causes beyond himself, most notably his lifelong devotion to protecting Wales and its people from invasion. Beyond pragmatic ruthlessness, Askeladd demonstrates genuine emotional depth. He devotedly cared for his enslaved mother until her death, revealed to the dying Bojan that he truly was his only friend, and offered Thorfinn final words of wisdom rather than cruelty, urging him to let go of his hatred and become a true warrior. His ultimate act, sacrificing his own life by killing King Swan to save both Prince Canute and Wales, exemplifies his complexity, his self-awareness of his sins, and his willingness to die for something greater than himself distances him from pure evil, positioning him instead as a morally grey figure shaped by trauma, ideology, love, and survival. What is Askeladd's relationship with Thorfinn? His relationship with Thorfinn is one of the most complex relationships in all of anime. On the surface, it seems like a relationship defined purely by hatred, After all, Askeladd is the man who murdered Thorfinn's father, and after that traumatic event, Thorfinn has dedicated himself completely to pursuing revenge against him by defeating him in combat and killing him. And yet, beneath this animosity lies a deeply paradoxical bond that blurs the line between enemy, mentor, and father figure. In many ways, Askeladd becomes a distorted replacement for Thor's, teaching Thorfinn how to survive in a world his real father hoped he never would have to endure. Askeladd exploits Thorfinn's rage by keeping him close, offering him duels in exchange for following his orders and killing his enemies. He sends Thorfinn into brutal battles, fully aware that the boy's hatred will sharpen him into a deadly warrior. In doing so, Askeladd becomes directly responsible for dragging Thorfinn into years of bloodshed, robbing him of his innocence and shaping him into a tool of violence. This alone makes Askeladd undeniably a culprit. However, Askeladd is also the person who understands Thorfinn the best. He recognizes Thorfinn's potential early on, repeatedly criticizing his lack of discipline, emotional recklessness, and narrow obsession with revenge. Unlike other Vikings, Askeladd does not glorify Thorfinn's rage. Instead, he views it as a weakness that will eventually consume him. Though his methods are harsh and often cruel, Askeladd pushes Thorfinn to survive, to think, and, ironically, to grow stronger. Not to save him, but to harden him, because Askeladd believes only strength and awareness can keep a person alive in a world ruled by violence. This contradiction is what defines their relationship. Askeladd is both the source of Thorfinn's suffering and the one who prepares him to eventually escape it. In his final moments, Askeladd abandons mockery altogether and offers Thorfinn sincere guidance, urging him to let go of the hatred and seek the path of a true warrior. It is the closest thing to genuine fatherly advice Thorfinn receives after Thor's death, spoken tragically by the very man who caused that loss. Why is Askeladd's relationship with Thorfinn and his overall character is of central importance to the story of Vinland Saga? Askeladd is the heart of Vinland Saga's first season because the story itself exists within his shadow. Every major event, Thor's death, Thorfinn's descent into violence, Canute's transformation, and the political direction of the world is shaped by Askeladd's choices. While Thor's represents the ideal of what a true warrior could be, Askeladd represents the reality of the world Thorfinn is forced to survive in. A world ruled by brutality, manipulation, and compromise. Season 1 does not yet allow its characters the luxury of peace or redemption. Instead, it asks how one endures in a violent world without being completely consumed by it. Askeladd embodies that question more than anyone else. He understands the emptiness of violence, yet continues to wield it because he sees no other way to protect what he loves. In doing so, he becomes the emotional and ideological center of the season, the character through whom Vinland Saga exposes the cost of survival, the corruption of ideals, and the painful gap between what the world is and what it should be. Askeladd is central to Vinland Saga because he embodies the story's core question: can a man shaped by violence ever transcend it? And what does it mean to be a warrior? His relationship with Thorfinn is the narrative concept through which this question is tested. Thorfinn begins the story by idolizing his father's strength as a warrior, but is swiftly pulled into Askeladd's world of war, manipulation, and survival. Askeladd represents the path Thorfinn could fully become, a man who understands violence intimately, uses it masterfully, and yet is hollowed out by it. He is what Thorfinn becomes if he never lets go of his hatred, a man who understands the futility of violence, yet remains trapped within it. In this sense, Askeladd functions as both a warning and a guide, a living example of what a life defined by warfare ultimately produces. Askeladd's influence does not end with his death. He lingers in Thorfinn's mind as a voice of confrontation, reflection, and challenge, appearing in his dreams and visions that force Thorfinn to reckon with the weight of the lives he has taken. His death marks the turning point of the story, shifting Vinland Saga from a tale of revenge into a meditation on redemption, peace, and responsibility. With Askeladd gone, Thorfinn loses both his enemy and his purpose, forcing him for the first time to confront who he is without his hatred. Through Askeladd, the series confronts the audience with an uncomfortable truth. Survival within violent systems often demands moral compromise, but living within them further leads only to emptiness. More broadly, Askeladd serves as the emotional and ideological bridge between the old world of Vikings and the possibility of something new. He understands the brutality of the world better than anyone, yet ultimately sacrifices himself to protect the future he will never see, one embodied by Canute and later by Thorfinn's dream of Vinland. In this way, Askeladd is not just a villain or a mentor, he is the heart of Vinland Saga's first season. Through his relationship with Thorfinn, the series dismantles violence and asks whether true strength lies in conquest or in choosing to walk away from it entirely. Askeladd remains unforgettable not because he is purely good or purely evil, but because he is devastatingly real. A man who committed terrible acts in service of something he believed was greater than himself. He is the narrative glue of Vinland Saga precisely because he forces every character and every viewer to confront the same painful question. In a world built on violence, is it possible to choose something better? And if so, what must we sacrifice to get there?
You have no enemies. No one does. There are no enemies. No one out there deserves to be hurt. No one at all.